Farewell to an affordable Ford. Welcome to Mark and Pete. Here's a thought.
There once was a Ford Fiesta that captivated the motoring investor, but after years of tours, it's closed its doors and can rust in peace and fester.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, motorists all around the world are mourning, yes, the death of the Ford Fiesta. The last one has rolled out off the production line, and after almost 50 years of history, and in fact was the UK's best-selling car, remarkably. And this is a result of many manufacturers moving towards the production of electric vehicles. Now, what's interesting is that this Ford Fiesta was first manufactured way back in 1976, and this was a very affordable vehicle, partly designed because of the energy crisis that struck the whole world in 1973. So it became a very popular vehicle for a number of reasons. We'll talk about why. Clergyman Pete, I ask you, what do you think about the ending of this brand, but more importantly, is the transition to electric vehicles?
Well, yes, it is a brand, an iconic brand, and this particular car, the 70s into the 80s, for such a cheap car was cool, and hot hatches became cool during that time. The VW Golf GTI was perhaps the king of them, but the Ford was a nippy little car, had a sporty version, and it was therefore had a particular part in the culture of the time. The hatchback car, which you would have thought was a cheap car, but it had a certain amount of prestige to it because it was seen as being nippy. So as a man you could buy it, as a woman you could buy it because it was stylish, and it was one of a few brands. I mentioned two then, the other the Peugeot 205, which would have a GTI version, which I suppose to me defined the motoring of that time, of the late 70s, early 80s. And it's been around for a long time, developed, of course, with changing regulations for safety, has become bulkier and bigger, is no longer the tiny little car. It's a shame to see it go. Actually, it's not a problem that it's going, but the problem, Mark, that I see is I can't see it being replaced by anything anywhere near like it. A lightweight, fun car that's, you used to own one, didn't you? So I guess you could speak to this. Indeed. I mean, presumably it wasn't that expensive either.
Well, I think this is the point. So from a commercial perspective, the Ford Fiesta really achieved a number of things. So yes, from a mechanical perspective, I guess, from a motoring perspective, it served multiple purposes. It was ideal for the first-time buyer. In my case, I bought my first Ford Fiesta in the late 80s and ran it for several years. But the thing that I liked about it is it was affordable, it was easy to maintain, it was cost-effective to run, but what was remarkable, even though that it was actually a really small vehicle, it did have a lot of space in the boot, so you could transport a lot, not just people, but if you were sort of going on holiday or something like that, you could pack a lot of bags in there. What I liked also is the fact that over the years it developed, and again, I think that from a commercial perspective, I'll just highlight some of the key points. It was sold in the UK, as we know, as one of the most popular vehicles, and it was the best-selling vehicle every year between 2009 and 2020. Yes, that's a remarkable achievement for any brand. And there were, in total, 1.5 million licensed vehicles of the Ford Fiesta on UK roads in 2022, according to the DVLA. That's the Driver Vehicle Licensing Agency. So clearly there's going to be a lot of legacy on the road. It's still a very popular vehicle and is still lasting and is enjoyed by motorists, not just in the UK, but throughout the world. I think that when you think about a vehicle like the Ford Fiesta, it was designed to be affordable, and it was designed for those people where, let's be honest, folks, if the economy was bad, it was ideal. And yes, we're seeing again, 50 years on nearly, where from the 70s where the economy is bad, guess what, folks? 2023, the economy is bad. And yet we're being now forced to move towards electric vehicles, which are extremely expensive to buy or to purchase as a vehicle. But not only that, is that it's going to be more expensive if you have to change the battery, and there are limitations in terms of the distance that you can travel. So, Clergyman Pete, I certainly ask you, how practical is it to actually start basically sort of mothballing these type of brands, and in some cases scrapping them altogether? Well, is the motorist now suffering yet again?
Yes, I think so. I mean, it's not the problem to me that the brand is the brand name has been put into an end, because it's hardly really the same car anymore with all the changes that have been made to it. So that's not the issue. The issue is that sort of car, the small, reliable, fun, cheap car that's cheap to run, and you're able to ride the vicissitudes of the markets, whereas we're coming to a period where there's not going to be that much spare cash around to people. That's going to go, because the new law coming, which will come into effect, is it 2030? Am I right in that? Where all new cars have to be electric, has meant that your electric cars are always more expensive to produce. They're they're heavier. They have to be, from the way that they're constructed with a heavy battery inside, and they're harder to maintain yourself. And finally, when the battery needs replacing, as in the big power battery, that's going to cost as much as a car. That's then has to be disposed of. And in fact, indeed, the whole manufacturing process and use of it and then disposal will be far worse for the environment than a petrol car.
Yeah.
Including, because of the manufacturing process, producing more carbon dioxide. I saw an analysis of that only this week. It's looking that is going to be the case. And so what we're going to see is a call, I think, to return to this. I think people will, as soon as you can't afford to buy a car, people say, well, can't we bring back petrol cars? And eventually the pressure, I think, will mount. And maybe it won't be a Ford Fiesta. There'll be a new one. Maybe it won't be petrol. Maybe it'll be diesel. Or there are other forms of fuel, like you can produce fuel from sugar. Maybe grow sugar beet and produce the fuel. But it will be an internal combustion engine. I think will need to make a comeback. These electric cars are just going to be a disaster. I don't know what you see from the business point of view.
Well,
but I mean, do you think that the companies like Ford, they go, obviously they've got to go this route because they're not going to be allowed to sell new cars? But do you think actually it's a bad thing for them, or maybe they're able to just sell cars for a higher price? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, from a business perspective, Ford, as many people and many motorists will have observed, have moved their manufacturing plants to multiple sites. And so, as we all know, they've moved them away from the United Kingdom. Yes, they still have bases in places like Cologne, Germany, which is where, of course, the last Ford Fiesta is being produced. But they're being basically moving their plants to where, shall we say, labour is a bit cheaper, and also, in theory, some of the supply chain is cheaper. But here's the thing. I think a lot of manufacturers recognise that there is an opportunity to make more money, because at the end of the day, there is something that is a forcing function. You've already said that there is a legislation to reach 2030. Sure. In some countries, it might be slightly later, and that is the case. But the point here is that what do those motorists who are looking to, say, upgrade or find that basically their combustion engine can't carry on, so they're going to have to buy an electric vehicle. At the end of the day, that's a lot of money for manufacturers, because they can make a lot of money. And so I think what we're seeing is a transition period. That deadline, incidentally, I would predict will probably have to be moved. There's going to be an interesting thing as well, because I already know from talking to motorists and also motoring manufacturers and dealers that there is what I'll call a second-hand vehicle market which is becoming highly lucrative. So, for example, if you've had a Ford Fiesta manufactured in the last couple of years, that second-hand market could actually increase the value of the vehicle, ironically.
Yeah, sure,
which would have actually, say, 10, 20 years ago gone the opposite way. But there is definitely a second-hand market. Now, that doesn't take anything away from the electric vehicle initiative, and that is the way that not only manufacturers are going, governments are going.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that electric cars have a place, and I think for just tootling around a town, there's always been a place for them, and also having electric supercars, the really fast cars, often a mix between an electric motor and an internal combustion engine can make the car actually faster, and particularly with the low down grunt that they have from these electric cars. But in the end, they're just going to be impractical, and so I think a time will come when the Ford Fiesta, or rather its cousin, called something else, developed from scratch, will rise again, and you'll get a lightweight car. And I'm pretty sure that it'll be, as I said earlier, it'll be an internal combustion engine. It's just turned out to be such a flexible design that I think it'll come back.
There is one thing that we didn't talk about, but I think we should just close out on. Clearly, hybrid vehicles are definitely one transition point. And I think that this is where I think we will see that motoring has an opportunity, meaning you still rely on the petrol, but you are transitioning to electric. And that's something where I could see an opportunity. But here's the point, folks, that we want to hear. I think ultimately this is going to be much more expensive motoring for the consumer. And I personally feel that the transition deadline is just too early for where we are in the technology innovation cycle.
I agree. And I'm going to put this out there. I know it's not long to go now. It's only 7 years from when this podcast episode is first broadcast. I don't think they'll do it. I think it will be pushed down the road, the deadline, then eventually it won't happen. I don't think they'll ever stop producing internal combustion engine cars. Yes, you heard it here first. I don't know what you think about that, Mark, but that's my prediction. That it's one of those things. It's an unrealistic but nice sounding aim, politically advantageous, but actually impractical, and it will never happen. Well, let us know what you think. Your usual thing, just go to markandpete.com, make sure you're subscribed, and leave a comment on this episode or every episode. But for Mark and myself, it's time to drive off, and we'll catch you next time. And bye for now. Oh, it'd be nice now, just as we're closing, to have a horn sound, but I didn't get one ready, so you'll just have to imagine it.